Yeah, so the question is, the first one was, how did you come to own a car like this, is really what it is. Yeah.
Well, like every other boy growing up in the 50s and 60s, I loved cars. Chevys, Pontiacs, Chryslers, Dodges, Fords, Volkswagens, you name it, I knew it. I knew the car, I knew the engine, I knew the year, I knew every car on the road, and I loved them all. And my father told me, work hard in school, and one day you'll be able to own any car that you want. So now fast forward to the 90s, and I have two young boys of my own. And of course they love cars. And so Saturdays in the winter, as an activity, we would drive to nearby Greenwich, Connecticut, and we would visit all of the beautiful car dealers. Now, of course, they didn't know, my sons didn't know from Chevys and Fords. My sons knew from Porsches and BMWs and Audis and Ferraris, and those are the cars they wanted to look at. So we went to all the dealers and we looked at all the cars, and they started to know all the cars. And there was one dealer in Connecticut that had vintage cars. And there were vintage cars in a big showroom, and every one of them looked like it was brand new.
Also in Greenwich, the dealer?
Also in Greenwich. And so we would go to that dealership from time to time because I loved the older cars. And one day we went in there, and there was a beautiful blue 1959 Corvette, and I fell in love with it. So that set me on the hunt. And as every collector knows, the hunt is half the fun. Looking for the car of your dream and finding it. And so we would go to different local dealers, and we would go to different local shows, and we would look for this car. And I started to look on the internet, and that was really, really out of my comfort zone.
What year was this, approximately?
This was in 2003, I would say. Started to look on the internet. The internet was a pretty new idea for most people, but especially for someone like me who had never shopped on the internet. I don't think I ever bought a pair of socks on the internet. And so I started looking on the internet. And after some time of looking on the internet, I found this car. So I contacted the dealer, and the dealer sent me information about the car. I had the listing from online. The dealer that I found was in rural Pennsylvania, maybe about a 10-hour ride from where I lived. And I had a friend, a mechanic, who connected me with a mechanic who specialized in vintage Corvettes, and he was willing to go and inspect the car for me. And for a fee, I had him do that. And he went, he inspected the car, and he said that the car was not a numbers matching car, but it was one of the most beautiful examples of this car that he had ever seen. And he had been a judge in various shows, and I guess had done auctions, and he was an aficionado. And he said of all the cars he had seen, this was one of the most beautiful examples. So I contacted the dealer and I said, okay, I'm interested in buying the car, and what I'd like to do, I'll send you a deposit now. I wanted a $1,000 deposit. And then I will send you, after I get the full mechanics report, I'll send you another half, 50% of the sales price of the car. And when you deliver the car to me, I'll give you the other half. And he said, no dice. And I said, what do you mean no dice? He said, you have to send me certified funds or wire the full amount of the car to me, and then I'll put it on a truck and send it to you. And I said, no way, you're in rural Pennsylvania. I don't know anything about you. I'm not sending you all that money by wire, and I might never see the car. He said, okay, well, that's the chance that you take. So I talked with my wife about it, and I thought about it, and I went way out of my comfort zone, and I said, I want that car. So I wired him the money, and a few days later, the car arrived on a big enclosed trailer truck. And the car came off the trailer looking exactly like it looks today. And this is 20 years ago. It came looking exactly the way it looks today. I drove it maybe 100 miles and it wouldn't start. And I called my friend from Rye, the mechanic, and he came over and he put the car in a flatbed, took it to a shop, and he said that apparently the car had sat for quite some time and that the fuel tank had rotted, and that the rot from the fuel tank when I drove it got into the fuel lines in the carburetor, and the gas tank and the fuel lines had to be replaced and the carburetor had to be rebuilt. So I did that, and the car ran great. And then I developed my own punch list of things that I wanted to have done. Like I wanted the clock to work, I wanted the radio to work, I wanted the high beams to work. I just had a punch list of things. And so the next season, the car, this is to my recollection, but it could have been 2 seasons later, the car was smoking a lot from the tailpipes when it was running. And he said that if I wanted to get rid of that, I should do an engine job and have the engine rebuilt. And so I did. I gave him my punch list of things that I wanted to have done, and I had the engine rebuilt, and I got the car back, and the car ran beautifully, and everything worked. The windshield wipers, the windshield washers, the cigarette lighter, everything that was on my punch list, everything was repaired and everything works. And to my knowledge, today, everything still works in the car. All those things still work. And I've just enjoyed the car ever since. I've had a couple of repairs since. I recently had to replace the radiator, and I recently had the generator and the speedometer rebuilt. Both of those needed to be worked on. But other than that, I've had the car for 20 years. And I've enjoyed driving it for 20 years. It's been great.
Were you always looking for a C1, and specifically a 59 C1?
I guess I would have taken a 58 also, but the 58 I think has the grills on the hood, and I preferred the plain hood. I thought the lines were much nicer. So yeah, I mean, I had kind of settled in on a 59, and I wanted blue, and this frost blue to me is just, with the white coves, is just a fabulous color combination, and I loved it.
When you got it from the dealer, were there anything, did the person you purchased it from, did they give you any info of the previous owner, where the car came from?
They did. The car came from rural Ohio. The car was bought by a father, in 59, given to his son in 63, and the dealer got it from that family, and I got it from that dealer. So I'm really the second owner of the car. And for a car that's this old, I think that that's a pretty cool fact. I have a copy of that title that I'm talking about from Ohio. Very sadly for me, when I went to register the car, Motor Vehicles said that they had to destroy the original. And I said that this original is it's like a historic document. You can't just destroy it. And they said, we must destroy the original. We can make you a copy of it, but we have to destroy the original. So they made me a color copy, which I have and have given to you. It's in the file. And I thought being the second owner of a car that was that old is pretty cool.
Fantastic,
Cool fact, yeah.
Tell me, what has life been with a 3-speed manual?
A 3-speed manual is really fun to drive. This car has what's called a T-lock shift. So it's reverses up, first is down, then you have to go back up to the middle and shift in the middle to unlock it, and then go over and up into second gear and down to third gear. So it's very smooth. The reason you have to go and unlock it in the middle is so you don't go from first back up into reverse. And it's pretty cool, you know, that they had this technology back then. Similarly with the convertible roof, the way the convertible roof folds into the car, into the back of the car, and you don't see it. It's really cool technology to me for a car in 1959, because there's cars like a Porsche Targa that still kind of do the same thing.
Totally.
The convertible top folds into the back and disappears. Just that this is done manually and not electronically, but that's why you don't see the convertible roof. I think that was pretty cool that they had that technology back in 1959.
For this particular car, is there anything that really, when you got this car and now over the years since you've owned it, is there something about it that's special versus, again, another C1, another a 59 C1? Is there something about this?
Everybody who sees this car without fail says the color, the paint. That's what everybody says. The car just glows. The sitting here, and I know that I'm biased, but sitting here, this car could be sitting in a 1959 showroom. That's how perfect the exterior condition of the car is. The chrome and the paint, it just glows, and I think that's really special. Like I said, I know I'm prejudiced, but I think that's really something special about the car.
There's a lot of details. When we were going around it, we noticed in the fit and the finish with the doors, you open them, it closes right back. And there's something almost right away that you notice, because these cars, there's some inconsistencies in production, and this one is pretty tidy.
I agree with that. I've had a lot of other cars that were much newer and much more expensive, and the fit and finish wasn't like this car. The engine in this car, you pump the gas twice, and then you hold down a little bit, and the car just turns over right away, starts right away, and runs smoothly. A really smooth engine. I think the car was really well built, and I think that I got really lucky buying a car like this on the internet. I think that it's just a great car.
And now you've had it over 20 years or so.
Just about 20 years.
What's prompted you to keep it all this time?
I loved it. I loved looking at it. Even in the winter when it sat in my garage, I have a temperature controlled garage, heat and air conditioning, and when it sat in my garage in the winter, I didn't use it from November until April, but I never covered it. I had a cover. It's in the trunk, but I never covered it because I loved looking at it.
Yeah.
And I just loved looking at the car. To me, it was like a piece of artwork. The way the car was designed, they just don't put this kind of detail into cars anymore.